Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren.
And I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Juneteenth, the holiday that was being celebrated by Black Americans on the 19th of June.
Right,
and we knew of this holiday because of our FYP was flooded with Black Americans explaining what this holiday was and why it was important to the Black community of America. And so today's episode is completely dedicated to Juneteenth. And for those of us who don't live in America, meaning Caribbeans and Africans in general, or any other Black person in diaspora like Europe,
right.
Let's get to understand what Juneteenth is and why it's important to Black Americans, right?
Right.
Let's watch and then we come back and talk about it. Also consider subscribing and let us know your thoughts and opinion on this episode.
It is so expensive to be Black in America, and for one couple, I'm talking like $500,000 expensive. Paul and Tanisha Tate Austin bought their home in 2016 and tricked it out $400,000 into major renovations, new deck, new floors, new fireplace. 4 years later, they wanted to get a home equity line of credit and they got their home appraised by this woman and it came back at $989,000, way less than the similar white-owned homes in the area. And they were like, that's suspicious, so they called their lender and got approved for a second appraisal. They took down all their family photos, hid any African art, and Tanisha even hid her hair products. And then they had a white friend pretend to be the owner of the home. This go around, the home appraised for $1,482,000, almost $500,000 more than before. The Austins were outraged and are suing on multiple claims, some of which have been thrown out, but others of which are holding up. In honor of Juneteenth, take a moment to talk to your friends of color about financial topics like mortgage rates, salary, and home prices so that they know what they should be demanding. Upward financial mobility is a key way to lessen some of the impacts of systemic racism.
So guys, before we analyze today's episode, we had this lady mentioning Juneteenth, and it is a term that we have had quite often, but to be quite honest with you, we didn't know what the holiday meant and why it was important to Black Americans. And we decided to do a deep dive into the internet so that we could understand this holiday. And as I understand, this holiday was on 19th of June, which means that it was yesterday, because today is 20th here in Kenya. Yeah, so if you're watching, happy Juneteenth. I know it's a bit belated, but happy Juneteenth to you all, our Black American audience who are watching from America and the diaspora, right? Right, and for the Africans and other diasporas who don't know about Juneteenth, but have been wondering what the term means and why the holiday is important for Black Americans, let's watch this video and then we come back and talk about it.
Okay, y'all, it's kind of my attention that folk really don't know what Juneteenth is. Yeah, now I let y'all chill on St. Patrick's Day because y'all really didn't know why y'all was drinking. I let y'all chill on Cinco de Mayo because y'all really didn't know why y'all was drinking, but not on Juneteenth, baby. Let's get into it. So boom, slavery was technically over in 1863. Lincoln was like, okay, y'all free, right? But in Texas, in Tejas, they was like, shh, don't tell them yet. Don't tell them down here. We want to get some more of that free labor. So the slaves were still out there picking cotton, struggling, sweating, all of that for 2 more years, y'all. On June 19th, 1865, Union soldiers pulled up like, y'all know y'all free, right? Y'all know y'all been free, right? And our ancestors out there like, what you said? Oh, snap. So Juneteenth, June 19th, is the real Independence Day for us, okay? It's giving liberation, joy, and you tried it vibes, all in one. It's our barbecues with our cousin on the grill and them Jesus sandals, with our red Solo cups, with our playlist that got Frankie Beverly and Megan Thee Stallion on it. So now that you know what Juneteenth is for real, how you gonna celebrate this year?
So guys, and amidst all this celebration of the Juneteenth, it was brought to the public attention that the President of the United States was not going to celebrate this holiday, and neither was he going to acknowledge this holiday. And he was further accused of saying that there were too many idle holidays in the national calendar, and this being the amidst the ones he eluded was a lazy holiday.
We got some news coming out of Washington that Donald Trump has said there's too many non-working holidays. Now, today is June 19th, and it should be noted that the president did not celebrate Juneteenth, and the White House didn't even recognize it. And when asked during a press conference if they were going to, KK Caroline basically dodged the question. So I think we know exactly what holiday he's talking about. There's too many of. It's Juneteenth. Why? Well, it's the same same president who signed an executive order to cancel DEI. DEI is the modern way that white people say the N-word. If you haven't noticed, the N-word just evolved over the years from N-word to thug to welfare queen to drug dealer to CRT, and the modern usage of it's DEI. Also, the same president who tried to close the African American History Museum in D.C., the same president who took the accomplishments of black service members out of military history after swearing to God he supports the troops. So it comes as a surprise to no one that the same president elected by white supremacists who represents white supremacy ideology now wants to cancel Juneteenth. But of course, he's too chicken shit to just say that out loud. Instead, he starts this little propaganda machine that there's too many non-working federal holidays. Hey, Nepo baby, you've never worked a day in your life. You've been handed everything to you from the day of your birth. Every single business you've ever started has been an absolute and utter failure. And more than 75% of this country hates you. So off. That being said, Juneteenth is going to be celebrated whether or not the white supremacist in charge wants to.
We've been lied to about Juneteenth. What does it mean to tell me I'm free, but I have to remain quiet about it and return back to the plantation? That's the literal words of General Granger. I'm about to read them to you. The freed men are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They're informed that they would not be allowed to collect their military posts and that they would not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere. See, the newly defeated Confederate soldiers and the plantation owners, aka masters, was worried about, man, they finna come down here and mess up our way of life. You know, I know we lost. I know we was some treasonous traitors, but y'all gotta look out for us. And what you think General Granger did? This man proclamation on June 19th reinforced the priority of keeping the formerly enslaved population at work on their respective plantations. In addition to stated worries about lawlessness and private discussions about the loss of political power, the primary concern for Galveston authorities appeared to revolve around the impact that emancipation would have on the cotton production. I'm born and raised in Texas, grew up celebrating Juneteenth my whole life. But when I read these historical excerpts, man, on June 19th, we're told to remain quiet about our freedom and return back to the plantation posts we've been working at. That wasn't enough though. The day after Juneteenth, because by that time the word got around to the plantation owners, to the enslavers, to the old sore-losing Confederates. So then General Granger issued another message. All persons formerly slaves are earnestly enjoined to remain with their former masters under such contracts as may be made for the present time. Their own interests as well as that of their former masters and other parties requiring their services renders such a course necessary and of vital importance until permanent arrangements are made under the Freedmen's Bureau. It gets worse than that though. I would argue we're taught a sanitized version of Juneteenth that absolves Union soldiers for really being some suckers in line for the Confederates to not only get off easy, but for them themselves, making a little compromise and be like, we ain't gonna destroy your whole way of living. Sure, crop. It's the reminder. This is the day after Juneteenth, what General Granger is saying. No persons formerly slaves will be permitted to travel on the public thoroughfares without passes or permits from their employers, or congregate in buildings or camps at or adjacent to any military post or town. I'm not lying or capping, and then this is what was printed in the Galveston Daily News right after Juneteenth. We are glad to learn that General Granger and our Provost Marshal General are both practical men and not theorists. They look upon emancipation not as freeing the Negro from all obligation to labor, for no human being, white or black, enjoys such freedom, but simply as changing obligation to work without stipulated wages, to an obligation to work, one more time, to an obligation to work for such reasonable wages as they may be mutually agreed upon. It get worse than that though. So on June 19th is when he get into Galveston. On June 22nd, he gets into Houston. And what does he tell them? The freedmen in and around the city of Houston are hereby directed to remain for the time being with their former owners. They are assured that, and by so doing, that they forfeit none of their rights of freedom. And the agent of the government whose businesses is that to superintend the making of contracts between freedmen and those who desire to employ them is expected to be here soon. In the meantime, the freedmen are advised to be patient and industrious. I ain't gonna bore you out with too much of this. I'm turning a YouTube video, but what I say in closing, General Granger said no encouragement or protection will be given to those who abandon their present homes for the purpose of idleness. Notice how the word idle or us doing nothing because, hey, shit, we ain't working for free, so we must be doing nothing. How that word is something that's always been prescribed on us to justify criminalizing us or erasing us. Education is elevation, and the history of Juneteenth is some dark shit.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about the episode we just played here. First of all, I want to thank all the creators who take their time to explain this to us. Looking from outside, looking in, there's a lot of things we don't know, and such topics at least sensitizes the general public here.
Right.
Because we used to hear, there's a point where you used to hear Juneteenth.
Last year,
We didn't
right?
even know such a holiday existed, yeah. And last year we used to hear about Juneteenth, and we shied from doing the content because we really truly didn't have an understanding of what it was. And last year was the very first time we ever heard of the word Juneteenth. Right. So I want to thank the creators who take their time to educate those people who are interested in knowing more about it, yeah. And then another thing I wanted to ask is, when you look at the meaning behind Juneteenth and the reason why it's a national holiday, it's quite sad that you look at a country where this is happening and there's some elements in that country who do not think that it's important enough for them to understand what this is, because I've seen some Caucasian trying to dismiss,
downplay or dismiss the holiday.
Yeah. And a perfect example also is none other than their leader, their president, because I'm surprised if it's actually true that the president and the White House, for them it was business as usual, then it goes to show you how much or how little they really care about Black Americans, about their welfare, about their struggles, or anything that has to do with them or affect
the
them,
Black community.
And Juneteenth became a holiday on 2021. For those of you who didn't know, I didn't know personally, but Biden signed it into law in 2021 June, right? June 17th, right? And right now, this act wants to be undone by the current White House, and this is the very, very same fraction that when, God forbid, war comes to America, they'll start reminding all Americans in America how they are Americans and how they should for their country.
They should be loyal citizens.
They should be loyal citizens. And I bet you not that should Black people join the army, because there's a point where Black people were being removed from the army just this year. The government was finding little mistakes to remove Black people from the army, right? And right now, should war ever come to America, who do you think will be put in the front lines for them to cover for the rest of the people who will be at the other points of strategic positioning? Okay, when you ask that, I feel like that's my personal opinion, right? Whoever, like, a country benefits the most, because you know how you benefit from that country, should be placed at the front line,
But
so
they'll never do that.
If you want Black Americans at the forefront of the line, then you have to give them the benefits for them to be patriotic to that country, Not to say that, yes, they're still patriotic, but, like, I feel like the government really, there's a word I'm looking for, when you don't appreciate something or someone, they don't get appreciated enough, Yet they're helping in the building of the nation,
Right, and I feel like it's just so sad that this is a national holiday that has been recognized, and instead of people just taking time off to tell the Black community, this reminds us of what we did to you and we are sorry. They're trying to downplay the pain of the Black community by completely ignoring this day as a holiday.
Right, and that makes me also ask another question. Why is it that certain people always like devaluing anything to do with Black people, So it's like when they have their holidays, something that you recognize that a lot of white people are celebrating, nobody says anything. But when it comes to the Black holiday, they want to pretend and act like, there's no importance to it, or like nobody cares,
But we just want to thank all the Black creators who took their time to explain, because I can say with confidence, with this day and age, it doesn't go to waste. Some people listen and people get educated. And as we always say, sometimes ignorance, and also the people who might genuinely not know, like the way as we didn't know, you get educated by this kind of content, right?
And it's quite sad. Like, you know, I was thinking for this to even become a holiday and what it signifies to the Black community, and someone explains that in Texas they used to have...
No, slavery ended in 1863, but Juneteenth became a thing because in Texas they didn't tell slaves that they were free.
Guys, can you imagine how diabolical that is? I feel like some people don't know the meaning of freedom because they've never lived in captivity, you know.
Right,
because for someone who's lived in captivity, when you tell them, when you tell them that today you're free, you can go, that means you've restored the power for them to make their own decisions, the power for them to move around freely, the power for them to decide on what matters in their lives, like for example, what they're gonna eat, what time they're gonna sleep, and things of that nature, you know. So for you to just be, you know, selfish enough to know that this person has gained their freedom and you just deliberately decide to sit quiet on it
and withhold the information from them,
that is quite diabolical. It's very cruel and it's very unkind, you know.
And I do feel like maybe most white people, because not all of them, right? But maybe most white people do not like to celebrate such things as Juneteenth because it reminds them of what their ancestors did. And right now, they themselves are still doing it to the Black community in different ways.
You see, now that's the problem, because I feel like...
Yeah, it's what I'm saying. It's why they don't want to acknowledge or celebrate such holidays. It makes them stare the ugliness in themselves.
But you have to walk through those uncomfortable situations or feelings for you to do better and for you to, you know, atone for what, even if you didn't do it, your ancestors did it. And those things are still being felt to the next generation and like that, you know. So for you to be remorseful, you can also take something that had a bad experience, and because of your actions, you can turn it into something positive. Like something positive. Like for example, instead of trying to get rid of the holiday, or instead of snobbing the holiday like it's of no value or importance because it is for a certain community, you can instead choose that day for your community. You can make it have a meaning, a better meaning from what it did for your ancestors, you know.
So guys, let us know what you think about this episode. Also consider subscribing if you're new to our channel, and we'll see you on our next episode.